There's a
There
bit.
it goes.
There it goes.
Am I waiting for everybody to be muted? Is that what, Susan?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, and then do we also need to call the meeting to order officially as well?
Yep. It's Doug Rogers. I'm at the board meeting office in Orange County. Bill?
Bill Hager, 104 Mimosa Lane, Orange.
Bob?
Bob McConnell, 14186 Madison Run Road, Gordonsville, Virginia.
Susan?
I'm Susan Turner, 112 West Main Street, Orange, Virginia, 22960.
Shannon? Oh, she's muted.
All right, Sharon Hugic, 410 North Main Street, Gordonsville, Virginia.
Okay. Ted?
Good evening, EDA board members. Ted Voorhees. I'm at 3950 Old Links Court in Powhatan, Virginia.
Wow. Beth?
31824 Zor Road in Locust Grove.
I think that's all we need, right? Oh, do we do Ronnie?
Well, Jack is still muted. He can't talk, so
I just got mine. I think I just got mine back.
who was that?
That's Ronnie. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
There he is.
Hey, Ronnie. Where are
I
you?
lost my audio. I don't know what happened, so I'm sorry.
I don't know. I had that same problem last week when I was playing with the buttons. Where you at, Ronnie? We need an address just for the record.
148 Red Hill Road, Orange, Virginia.
Thank you. We're ready now, Susan. Go ahead and go back to approve the minutes. Motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next one was the budget approval package that was sent out. And any questions about the motion to adopt the budget resolution as presented? With the package was in there.
Oops.
You want to say anything about that, Ted, or just?
I wasn't really significantly involved in development of the
Okay.
budget for you or the county this year,
Okay.
having joined late. So
Yep.
I'm happy to research any questions, but
Okay.
I'm not sure I have
Yep.
any valuable comments to add.
Okay. And if nobody has any questions, a motion to approve the budget resolution as presented in our package.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The next one is the bond financing package, and that was quite a package that we got on that. And we have Bruno, T.W. Bruno, the lawyer, the bond person, to walk us through the highlights of the bond motion so we understand what's in there.
Sure.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me tee this up for everybody. And we do thank you for noting T.W. Bruno from McGuire Woods is here. Our bond counsel, Ted Cole from Davenport, our financial advisor, is also on the line. And I think what I would say is if we want to segregate the duties, Ted will be in a position to talk about the solicitation, the way we made our decisions about what we're recommending to the Board of Supervisors as far as the loan, the bank loan that we'll be taking to finance this borrowing. And he also is familiar with the debt service schedule and the nature of the projects. I can talk a little bit about the projects, but then TW, of course, is our bond counsel and can, to the extent that you have questions about the structure of the borrowing in terms of its legality and the role that you play as the EDA, the role that the collateral property plays, all of that he can advise you on. So we do have these two resources here. Suffice it to say that the Board of Supervisors was looking at borrowing money for some capital projects. There were originally 4 largish projects, a crucial one being an additional cell at the landfill. Another critical project is some renovations to one elementary school. Another project is the repurposing of the currently abandoned Bluebell building. And then there's a 4th project, which is to add additional capital into the broadband project, where we're working to extend the fiber backbone across the county. And then we did add a 5th very small project in, which was to add an ambulance chassis that we were already going to finance through another means. But since we're doing this borrowing, the board agreed to just go ahead and drop that into this borrowing. It does have a shorter debt service schedule. As you can imagine, this borrowing is set up so that the financings essentially track the length of time of the project. So we pay off the chassis quickly, the landfill much longer. Now, that's the extent of what I had hoped to convey, but I think Ted Cole is prepared to go through the financing. If you have any questions, if you would like to do that, you don't have to do that. That's a decision really, for the Board of Supervisors, but he's prepared to speak to all of that. And then TW can talk to you about the structure and your role in that. So we're here as resources for you. As far as critical path goes, your approval tonight is very important because we're on a tight schedule where you approve, then we have the school board needing to approve as well, since we're collateralizing one of their schools, the Gordon Barber Elementary School. And then they all kind of come together in a schedule where we're going to close this financing during, I think, the second week of July. So with that, why don't I stop and Mr. Chairman, would you then go ahead and sort of instruct us? Who would you like to hear from? What would you like to learn about? We are here as resources to you.
I personally don't need for Ted to walk through the financing options, but I'm going to ask each board member if they need to understand the how and the why they did that. Bill, do you have any?
I'm good.
It is what it is.
Bob? Nope. Beth, anything?
No, fine.
Shannon?
No, I'm comfortable. Thank you.
Yep. Ronnie?
Good.
Good. I would like to hear from Bruno just to understand what you said, the importance of our role in this and the structuring of the loan. Walk us through that just so we all understand what we're saying yes to.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You are not saying yes to be personally on the hook to pay back every penny that gets financed here. In fact, it's actually quite the contrary. The way this financing works is going to be substantially similar to actually another county EDA financing that we did in 2016, where the EDA's role is purely as a conduit to facilitate the financing of these projects on behalf of the county. And so the way actually it reads in the state code, the way it reads in your resolution is that the obligation that the EDA is going to undertake as part of this financing is essentially non-recourse to the EDA and is payable only from the money that the County Board of Supervisors makes available under these underlying lease documents that relate to the real estate collateral that Mr. Voorhees referenced. So the way it'll work is that the EDA is actually the issuer of the bond, and actually the issuer of the debt instrument that goes to, in this case, a financial institution. But like I said, those payments that the EDA is going to be making are derived solely from the payments that the Board of Supervisors makes. And this is a pretty common legal financing structure in Virginia. It's widely used. Like I said, the county has used this financing for the 2016 financing, which is on a much larger scale. And in reality, the pass-through nature is really even shortcut even further, in that the money, when it gets paid, doesn't even flow through the EDA the way the documents work. The county just pays the financial institution directly. So that's maybe the 10,000 foot view of why we're talking to you and what's going on here. I'm happy to get into some more detail if you've got specific questions. I'm happy to walk through a little bit more in more detail the resolution, just again, so you sort of understand what the documents are. Again, the way the resolution works, the way the bond documents works, the EDA won't be responsible. No officer of the EDA is going to be personally liable for anything that goes on here. That, again, the payments are all coming from and limited to the payments made by the county.
I'm comfortable with what you said, but it wouldn't hurt for you to hit the highlights of the resolution instead of reading.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So again, as a basic background legal structure, there will be a lease, sort of a ground lease from the school board to and the county, but mostly the school board because they own the real estate, to the EDA, and then for a nominal, $1 lease payment, and then there will be a financing lease back from the EDA to the school board and the county, where the payment obligation of the county is embedded, and that's where the county will agree to make rent payments on the financing lease that are going to be equal to what the debt service on the bond ends up being. So there'll be a ground lease, for lack of a better term, a financing lease, and then a deed of trust will get put on the leasehold interest that that is being given as part of this financing, not the underlying fee simple, which is owned by will remain in the possession of the school board, and an assignment of the leases in favor of the lender. So that's the basic legal structure. The financing is authorized to finance the projects, again, that Mr. Voorhees went through. And so you, in approving this resolution, authorize the issuance of one or more series of bonds. We expect there may be 2 series of bonds, one of which will be tax exempt, one of which will be taxable. And the reason for that is, given the restrictions in the Internal Revenue Code related to tax exempt financing, it maximizes the county's flexibility on the broadband component to do that on a taxable basis, which means that the county is sort of unencumbered with facilitating whatever type of broadband development that it wants to. If you do tax exempt financing with that, then you're limited, and it's typically our advice that when it comes time to do whatever business deal end up being done on broadband, you don't want the tax exemption sort of tail wagging that dog. So we expect there to be 2 series of bonds. The aggregate principal won't exceed $15.5 million, which is the same amount that the Board of Supervisors will be presented with, and I think that has been sort of offered up to them, but they'll adopt their formal resolution later. It sets the maximum maturity, sets the maximum interest rate. We have bids back in from banks, and they are under the interest rate parameter in there. Authorizes the chairman, the vice chairman, secretary, treasurer, and so forth to sign all the documents that are needed in order to execute the closing, including a tax certificate and a tax filing that is necessary to do post-closing. We are responsible for that. So we will take ownership of all that process. And then in paragraphs 5 and 6, those are sort of the key ones that go back to the pass-through principle that I talked about earlier. It's that all the costs and expenses associated with this are going to be not the responsibility of the EDA. They're going to either be paid by the County Board of Supervisors or from the proceeds of the bonds, and that nothing in the bond documents is going to be a debt of the of anybody here. It's a non-recourse obligation
Mhm.
to the EDA.
Good. Any questions for anybody on the thing is having to do with the bond issue, and why they're there for? Personally, I'm excited to see the Bluebell building being renovated. We've looked at that for God knows what, how long, Bill? 10, 20 years?
Long time.
Long time.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, ask you to do a roll call vote for this,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
I'd like to have a motion to adopt the board financing, bond financing resolution as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. I'd like to do roll call. Susan? You're muted.
I apologize. Mr. Rutgers,
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Hager,
Aye.
Mr. McConnell,
Aye.
Mr. Rankin.
Aye.
Ms. Hujic, I'm saying that correctly,
Aye.
and Ms. Ross.
Aye.
And we have Jack, but we can't hear him, so we'll go
One of
with
them
him.
is on here, but he can't speak, so therefore it passes. I'm going to say it's not unanimous, one abstaining. That's about the only thing I can do with Jack when he's can't be able to speak. So it does pass.
He's still trying to get on.
Yeah. Was that sufficient for you, Bruno?
Yep, that worked great. Thank you very much.
Okay, super. Next on the agenda is Susan has a few things on the secretary's report.
A couple quick housekeeping items. We did have the detention pond. It's its annual inspection and it passed with flying colors. So it's in great shape. The other night at the board meeting, very preliminary, Mr. Voorhees mentioned to the board that with some of the CARES Act funding that the county will be getting, there may be a little bit left over where we could invest in our economic development, some items that the CARES Act funds are allowed to be used for. So we're thinking about brainstorming on a grant program for local businesses. And again, that's very preliminary and we'll have more on that going forward. That's it.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman?
This is a question for Ted and Susan. Is I understand that the building will be open in July. Is it for normal occupancy at best guess, or is that with the plan?
The building as in the county buildings?
This bill, yes. So there's go ahead, Ted.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to touch on a couple things and first say it's nice to meet y'all. It's a little odd this way, but I appreciate your service. Hopefully we won't be too long before we can meet in a little different set of circumstances. And I do want to thank Susan for touching base with you all about this notion of some economic development funding. I'm going to give you just one more bit of information on that. So the idea is that the CARES Act, it's very broad legislation. The first priority for us is to pay direct county costs related to responding to the coronavirus. But one big piece that's also an option is to provide loans or grants to businesses to help offset their losses or find ways to get them back up and running. We believe that our direct costs have been low enough that there will be significant available resources to provide grants to local businesses. And so just since y'all are the primary economic development focused entity, just the heads up is that the things we're thinking about are finding a local loan grant originator and servicing entity that has experience doing this, because the county itself does not. So we're trying to do that. And right now we're in conversation with the group called CIC based in Charlottesville, who've done economic development loans with other local entities previously. So that's one piece of information. And the other is that we're going to look at trying to create some different buckets. Sort of one might be focused on travel and tourism, since that industry has been hit particularly hard. Another might be more for general business. And those, we're not really looking at loans and grants to businesses that have been fine, like corporate name brand businesses like Food Lion or Dollar General. I mean, they've been open, they've been fine, they've actually been probably doing better in some ways. This is really for our homegrown businesses, our brick and mortar family businesses in town. And so we'll try to have some real abbreviated criteria, make it really easy, and then have this third party be the way we apply and disperse funds. So that's just the concept, and we don't have those details. As Susan said, we're working through this. We're talking with others in the community about it, like the towns. Do they want to have their own version of it? Do they want to just have the county take it on? Because they do get their own allocation. So that's probably a little bit more than I needed to go into, but that's what we're thinking. And we'll have more for the board and for the EDA, over the next 30 days or so, as we kind of wrestle with how much money is available for these different things.
Good. Our next meeting on the books, the one that's scheduled, is in July the 9th. And right now, Susan and I haven't talked, but right now I don't know if we're going to have the meeting or not, but could we have one if we needed one next in July?
So as far as the building goes, it's our expectation that the elevator will be out of service through the end of July. It is possible that it would be in service sooner than the end, but I think the 9th is probably a little early.
Okay.
But that's the building issue. We are going to be opening to the public, with social distancing and what have you, many of our facilities on Monday. I'm not sure that we're in a position to want to have public gatherings until July is over. So we're recommending at least boards have virtual meetings through the end of July in light of the coronavirus issues and in light of the lack of an elevator.
Yeah. Well, Susan will keep us in touch. If there's anything we need to do, we could do another Zoom meeting if there's something we need to vote on in July. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right now, we will not have a physical meeting in July. That's the agenda. Motion to adjourn, and we're adjourned.
Just a quick question on that CARES Act stuff. Are those forgiven loans?
Great question. So the rule, as the federal government has put it out, is everything must be expended by the end of the calendar year. And if we create any loan programs, any payments that return to us that are still in our possession as of the end of the calendar year would need to be returned to the U.S. Treasury. So initially we had thought we could create a revolving loan program and then the proceeds could, be reinvested. But since they have to be returned to the Treasury, that's not particularly advantageous. We might as well develop a grant or forgivable loan type structure so that they do not have to be repaid.
No, Culpeper Chamber of Commerce is doing some similar program. They sent out several emails if you would like to apply.
And
Ted,
I
this
think,
is Sharon Hugic. Could you just give us a sense of how much money that it would involve?
sure. And so to Ronnie's point, I think the same originator and servicer that Culpepper's using is the same one we're talking about. That's A. And then as Sharon, as far as amount, I mean, we could be talking $100,000 or $200,000. I mean, we're talking a reasonable, something that Orange probably has never done at that level before. It's a little early to say, but I think that I'm comfortable saying at least $100,000, but probably more. We could really give a shot on the arm to a lot of folks.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Just one of the buckets ought to be restaurants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't have
Anything
enough of them anyway.
Bill, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to thank the board again for the contribution to the scholarship program that OCHS Alumni and Friends established. The $5,000 helped us give away $30,000 this year in our first year of operation. And 9 kids, 7 of them going to Germanna, 1 going to an online school, and 1's going to go to Southside Community College to become a power line worker.
Oh, good. Good question.
Which is good because he can go right to work pretty quick and make a good salary.
Yep.
And I just like to thank you again for doing that. And at the same time, ask if you'd be interested in doing it again for our upcoming campaign, which will start July 1st.
We'll take that under advisement, Bill. Beth, anything else? Yep. Ronnie,
I'm good.
Bob,
Good shape.
Shannon,
I'm good to go.
Ted, anything? We're going to adjourn.
Thank you very much for your help this evening with the bonds.
Okay. Susan, anything closing?
Well, sir.
Meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
I to one and all.